All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. Here we are. It is New Year's Eve, 2023. And for this year's Caffeine Crusade, we kind of wanted to, talk about what we think is in store, not only for Black Templars for 2024, but kind of review the year for us as well, and just the 40K meta in general and where we kind of think it's going, and that sort of stuff. So, Kraken Matt says, I am thinking that we are getting very little in 2024. I really want to be proven wrong. Well, whether or not we get a codex in 2024 is going to be remains to be seen. Somehow, I think probably not, which is fine. I like our index a lot, actually, and as long as we don't get nerfed too hard in the upcoming data slate, Black Templars are in a really good place. They're probably the best place that we've been in years, right, Bob? Additions,
Yeah.
even.
As a tournament player, this has been a very nice place to be for us. There, I don't have to worry about swimming upstream,
Yeah.
trying to think of counter meta things to win. Uh, but some of our most popular builds are sometimes uh, a little unpopular. But Iron Storm, because it's more of like a gun line version of the Templars. But even still, you can still take several different things that are Black Templars esque in that detachment to make it your own. And yeah, I mean, we've had success with Firestorm. I don't believe we've had any wins yet, but we've had several high finishes in Firestorm. Many high finishes in Righteous Zeal. Some tournament wins. I think we have two in Righteous Zeal or
Yeah.
Righteous Crusaders.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're in a great place. Honestly, we'll probably catch a couple nerfs, but would I say that we're gonna get a ton of big ones? No, I'm not gonna go with some big nerfs on that. But I mean, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. We actually just talked about Iron Storm earlier this weekend, or I guess it was Thursday. Bob and I recorded. We're starting our detachment deep dives, and we recorded. So a little sneak preview for you: Iron Storm detachment deep dive is coming, and it's. I'm really excited for you guys to see this video. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with Iron Storm and still feel Black Templar. I know that's always the concern. It's like, well, are we just Iron Templars? Like, are we Iron Hands only with Templar crosses? Like, no, you can definitely make very Black Templar lists with pretty much all these detachments. And so I'm excited to get that video out to you guys. It's mostly edited. So should have that out in the next day or so for you guys to kick off the new year. So
Yeah,
so yeah.
I think it's interesting when you look at the tournament data for the detachments for Space Marines. You actually see most people that are taking Iron Storm, and I looked at the stats over the last couple days. Most people that are taking Iron Storm are actually playing it as Black Templars over the standard, because of the tools that we have as a Black Templar army. One of them being
Firstborn
the
Crusaders.
Firstborn Crusaders, and the other piece being the Malta Meltas. But notwithstanding, it's just kind of interesting. It's not Iron Templars; it's Templars.
Yeah.
So
Taking unique units to us. And the Firstborn Crusaders is a huge draw for that because they're so cheap. Now I don't think they're going to get excuse me. I don't think they're going to get by this data slate without a points increase. And we talked about that a little in the video. But you know, it's they're 65 points right now. I don't think there's any way that they are less than 75 or 80 points.
Yeah.
You know, and but even at 75 or 80 points, I think they're still worth it. And you know, the utility of using them in that list, you'll just have to wait and watch that video when it comes out.
Yeah, leaks. That was an unfortunate situation for sure for the World Eaters. But
Same thing with
again,
Guard, really. I mean, they came out at almost the same time.
yeah. But they got a bunch of new stuff again right away. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, something that I hope happens this edition is that GW lets, once they've released all the books, that they don't just jump into another edition a couple months down the road. Like, give it like the rest of the year or a year or something like that. And you can keep things fresh with like campaign stuff and like changing up, you know, the mission pack, which is something that's interesting. Leviathan dropped in what, June of 20 of this year, right?
yeah,
Think it was something like that.
June, July.
We've not had any real changes to that mission pack or any talk of a new mission pack, which I kind of think is good. Number one, I think Leviathan is very well balanced. I really like it a lot. I was really skeptical of tactical missions when it first dropped because I remember Maelstrom of War, which was, and whatever its subsequent iterations were called, it was always terrible because it was like, capture that objective over there. Great. There's 80 million dudes on that, and I can't get to it. But I think tactical objectives now are much, much more achievable. Very few of them are you gonna look at that and go, "There's no way I'm gonna do that." And you can discard them and get CP. You can get a resource, which
Yeah.
is really nice. So yeah. I really like Leviathan. So if when we get a new mission pack, hopefully they don't tweak it too much.
Yeah, it sounds like most of the players, the high end players, like it as well. And let's be honest, Ninth Edition was basically the play test for 10th edition, so they got the ability to see what worked, what didn't, and towards the end of 10th edition, everything was kind of humming a lot smoother after they figured out what a balanced book looked like. So they took that to heart when they were designing 10th edition. So I think what we were kind of joking a little bit before the stream started. I think the biggest thing that we're going to see in 2024 is inflation. So, or shrinkflation in the case of this. So we're going to be like 3 Marines per box instead of 5. So you have to buy
Yep.
4 boxes to get the same amount.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like though so far though, at least from what we've seen of new stuff coming out, like the Kill Team, whatever the heck the new Kill Team box is called, I can't remember. The one with the scouts in it. It
The one that
seems
sold
like,
out.
yeah, the one that sold out. I got mine. The scouts seem like, based on the price of the box, which really only had a few little extra things in there, I think that we're gonna see the box of scouts, be $60 for 10 guys, which is in line with like intercessors and some of that. Some of these boxes make 0 sense. I don't understand why jump pack intercessors are $60 for 5 guys. That's absurd. Um, you know, they're literally just assault intercessors with jump packs. Like, they should be a 10-man box
That
for
extra
$60.
plastic costs like another $30, dude.
Well, apparently, I mean, like, I get like a unit like Sword Bros. They're like 55 or 62. Um, And that's fine because you get a crap load of options and stuff there and customization things, and you get 5 unique sculpts. Like the Swordbro box is worth it in my opinion. Um, but some of these other ones where you get less models for the same price, it's like air ads and eliminators and blade guard are $60 for 3 dudes. What? So
Yeah.
it makes no sense. But at least the scouts seem like they're going to be reasonably priced. Although I'm probably not going to need any more. I don't think. I'm also planning to use mine for neophytes. So I'm gonna kit bash some neophyte tabards onto them, so that I don't have to buy another box of uh, Primaris Crusaders. Which, not that I don't like that box. I'm one of those people that I have to have. I want to have unique sculpts, and there's only 2 unique sculpts in the Crusader box for neophytes. So I want to have some different poses. So
Yeah, definitely. Give me one sec. Looks like my settings are messed up. I just want to make sure that I'm using the correct
yeah, no problem.
inputs.
Crimson says, I read somewhere where Sword Bros train in Terminator armor. Does this mean we might get Sword Bros and Terminator armor in Black Templar future? I guess it's possible. We've never been like especially known for Terminators in the lore, anyway. But the old lore from Fourth Edition is that Sword Brethren, you know, are no longer responsible for training neophytes, and instead themselves train in the use of things like, Terminator armor. So that is a bit of lore that is accurate, but that they've never changed since then. Um, the the interesting thing now is though that with the way the lore is now, there's another bracket of rank. So you got your neophytes, you got your initiates, and then it used to be you got your sword bros. Now there's another rank in between there called veterans, which makes sense. With initiates, veterans, and then sword bros are no longer just our chapter's veterans. They are a much more elite group, which they've always been elite, but they were seemingly far more numerous because, like anything with the word veteran in it, was considered a sword bro, or used to be. But the new lore is that the sword bros they're the ones that get to wear the red cloaks. They are the best of the best of the best, and the veterans are allowed to wear the red and black livery on their shoulder pads, but they are not necessarily sword brethren, nor do they have to wear the red and black. It's a choice for them. So, depending on how you've painted your blade guard or how you've painted your vanguard or whatever, they made it so that you're lore accurate either way. I kind of like that actually, because it makes the sword bros all that much more special. But the Terminator armor is no longer exclusive to them, is what I'm getting at. So back to the original question, which was, do we think we're going to get Black Templar Terminators? I mean, theoretically, it's possible. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. So GW said at the start of ninth or whenever this was, some stream that they announced that with every codex release, there was going to be at least one new model. Now, we've seen that that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a new unit. But so far everyone has gotten at least one new unit too. So if you look at Space Marines, we got the jump pack guys, and I guess Terminators are just new models. They're not new, right? All the Leviathan stuff, but we did get new units. So did Tyranids. They got a lot of new units. But we were also the launch book. So, you expect them to get more than others. But Necron's got a new unit. Admech got a new unit. We know Dark Angels are getting a new unit, as well as new models. So I don't know what they would do. What's really unique to us that's missing from our, you know, codex as far as a new unit. So unless it's
Yeah.
like,
You're looking at guns or Terminators, really, honestly.
mhm,
Maybe Castellian Draco again. That could be
yeah,
a possibility.
yeah,
Kind of a special character.
tank red would be fun,
Yep.
or some sort of unique dreadnought. We used to have a unique dreadnought ages and ages and ages ago, and so that would be kind of neat. To be honest with you, even if we don't get a new unit, I would just settle for like a Terminator upgrade sprue or some kind of like more bits to customize our dudes would be cool for me. But I don't know. What do you think they're gonna do, Bob?
Honestly, I think they're going to go with a Terminator route. If I'm.
You think we'll get a new variant unit? Like
I think so.
yeah.
I think that's what we're probably going to see. This is not. I know I have sources, but this is not from anything. This is pure speculation.
Pure Bob speculation.
Yes, pure Bob. So I feel like the trend is they want to bring out a new unit for someone so that everyone buys the new thing and converts, and they're making their money off of that. So let's. I mean, there's a great
Not gonna
number.
lie, I'm kind of jealous of sword and board Terminators that Dark Angels have.
Yeah,
They're they're pretty dope.
I
So
see everyone talking about that on Facebook and all that stuff, and I look at them and I'm like, yeah, they look cool, but I don't want to convert all of the sword and wing iconry and all that
yeah.
stuff. The Dark Angels, that's literally all over those
Well,
models.
and you can't
All
use
over.
the swords. So,
Yeah.
but that's really what I'm more jealous about is the fact that they get to have Terminators with swords and shields. Like
Yeah.
that's what I wanted. That's what I've wanted forever for Terminators. I thought that would be so cool for Black Templars to have swords and shields. And I mean, it makes as much sense for Dark Angels to have it as it does for us.
Yeah.
They're very knightly themed and they have a big sword motif going on. So, I'm just jealous of the unit type. I'm interested to see what those Calibanite swords are gonna do.
Damage
So,
one. Yes.
and then we get big damage 2, 3 swords. So so yeah, I think that's probably a good shout, Bob. As far as what we're gonna get, a Terminator unit sounds plausible to me. I think it'd be either that or, like I said, like a dreadnought or a character.
Yeah, because if you think of the lore, I think it's unfortunately something that hasn't been realized over the course of our existences, but they talk about it a lot, is the void battles in close confines of like ships and such, where they teleport on with the Terminators, and they really haven't done anything with it. They literally almost every story that you see with like Black Templars are talking about going in, teleporting in with their Terminators and fighting. Helbrecht leading Terminators in an attack on the Stormlord's uh, ship and uh, fighting the Stormlord with his Terminators. Just tons of different things, and really they haven't seen anything with it. And I think it would be an opportunity to kind of bring those um, in some fashion, even if it maybe if it's not even like what am I trying to say? Not quite as bulky of a Terminator armor, maybe because they're fighting in the confines of a ship, like a modified version of a Terminator armor would be kind of cool. Just kind of a play off of that. There's lots of things you could do. Um, because we do have our own forged ships that follow around our crusades. So we do have some ability to produce our own uh, materials for our crusades. So I don't know. I think they have some opportunity there that we could play around with the units and give us something unique.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at the chat here, first I want to address Jared said that he's really having trouble hearing you.
Is there anyone else?
Much
Because
better,
I
thank
am
you.
literally on max.
Yeah, so I had I adjusted your volume in our broadcast software, so but he says much better, thank you. So that hopefully will take care of that. Guardian says, how do you think the app is going to look once all the rules are locked next year? So, and then followed up with, well, they won't make any money off of me until they fix their embarrassment of an app. The rules need to be available for everyone. So, on the one hand, I think GW is missing an opportunity. On the other, I think I understand that they want to make money too, right? So I understand. I don't necessarily agree with it because I think rules should be free. To be honest, most other game companies have free rules in some shape or form. Most other game companies are also like not even half the size of GW. So, nor are they publicly traded, right? So they are also beholden to the shareholders, and anytime they do something that can generate a change in their stock price, right? And when you are a very large corporation, there are bean counters that monitor that, and that's a huge factor, right? And I know this because I work for a very large corporation. So, it's one of those things where I think the rules should be free, or what I think they should do is they should bake it into their subscription service, right? Either as part of it or increase the price, like an extra $5 a month or something like that, for the rules, and you just get all the rules as long as you subscribe for it. I would totally pay for that. I think that you should be able to just buy the rules digitally within the app. So like I understand GW doesn't want like to be like pirated, like have a PDF that you can just pirate, right? Which is obviously happening anyway, because people take pictures of the books and convert it to a PDF. What I think that they should do is, if you want app access, because the app itself is actually very good in my opinion. It's leagues and leagues better than it was for ninth edition. I use it all the time, and something that I would like to see happen is they offer a code that you can just purchase for, I don't know, $15, $20, something like that. And that's all you get. You don't get a physical hard copy, but you get a much cheaper version of the rules, and you get app access, permanent app access, by just paying for a code. I would think that would be a great solution too, as well. So that's kind of my
Or
take on that.
yeah, or have another option to that is if maybe they up the price of the monthly price of the app and Warhammer Plus, maybe,
Yeah.
because I think we pay like $10 or $15 now. I don't even remember it. I pay the year and I forget about it. So maybe they up it to like $20 or $25 or whatever
Yeah.
it may be per month, and then you have access to all of the codexes in the app permanently. Just whenever they put out a
Yep.
new codex, you have the rules,
Yeah.
and just
Bob,
there.
your mic is overmodulating. It's like peaking out, so maybe it's too close. I don't know.
I turned it up after he said he couldn't hear me.
Oh no, you don't need to do that. You can turn it back down to what it was because he said it was much better when I adjusted it on my end.
Gotcha.
Want to get to this super chat. Leaks, thank you very much for the super chat. He asks, "What are your predictions for our codex detachment? I'd like a litanies based one geared towards taking chaplains." So, that's an interesting question, because I I am interested to see how they handle that too. Mostly because we've got our vows. That's really like our signature thing. And how are they gonna do that? How are they gonna like have one with vows and then ones without? Like, I'm not really sure how they're gonna handle that. And I think that it will be interesting to see it. I think there could be one that's based around chaplains, because that's definitely our thing. I think there could be one based around massed infantry, black tide, as it were, and then another one that we could get. I don't think we're going to get more than three besides the index one. they'd just be stretching us too thin. There could either be something around like, and maybe that maybe people feel like this is more of an Iron Hands thing, but in our fourth edition codex, they talked about an armored spearhead as sort of like a way that we wage war, right? With Land Raider Crusaders, and you know, of course, at the time it was land speeders, but they're gone now. So the other thing is we could have one that's like an anti-psyker one, which, while fluffy, would not be very useful. I'm hoping that like if they do go that route, that it's useful not just against psychers, that it's useful against like other things too, because um, otherwise it's going to be like the worst attachment by far. So, what are your thoughts, Bob?
Well, first of all, am I better?
Yes.
All right. So, one thing I think that they are going to probably do is I think they're going to have one a la First Company,
A sword bro one,
revolving
yeah,
around this
yeah,
other sword brother, whether that be our models that we have or additional potentially like Terminators, because like I said, I think they're going to go Terminators, so it might go in that route. I do like the thought, and I didn't think about the armored spearhead. That's kind of a thing. Potentially even uh, drop pod related. That would be kind of cool.
hmm
Because that's something that was one of the old rumors that I got from someone, but I haven't seen to fruition. Is I heard that they were going to be redesigning uh, drop pods, but that one I haven't seen or heard anything else about. So that would be kind of cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's going to be probably one of the few things. If I'm being honest, I think they're probably going to split up our vows. I don't think they're going to keep them together, but they're going to do it separate, and they're going to have that theme played out. So like if you do the foot based one, it's going to be like uphold the honor,
yeah,
and then whatever else. It'll be unfortunate if that's the case because then it takes away a little bit of tactical play. But let's be honest, most of us are picking uphold right away, anyway. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do. I hope they keep all the ones together.
So far, they've kept the indexed attachments largely the same.
Yeah.
Like
So that'll be
Gladius
cool.
really didn't change much. The Synaptic Imperative or no Invasion Fleet for NIDS didn't really change. Necrons didn't really change. I don't know much about AdMech to know how much if it changed or not. I think it did change a little bit, but it got slightly. It's like a side grade, slightly better in some areas, slightly worse in others.
Yeah. They
Although the AdMech
mostly.
Codex, the AdMech Codex, they just phoned that mess in. Like it's such a disaster of a codex. Like I can't even believe it. Those poor players, I feel bad for them because it's just awful.
Still better than what they had before in the index, but yeah, it needs some help.
It needs a lot of help. So what was
Paul,
it?
no, we don't get locked out of
Correct. Yeah,
the
that's what I was
Space
going
Marines.
to address. And I think he's asking when we get our detachments, will we get locked out? I seriously doubt it. That's not been their mantra since the beginning. We'll find out soon enough if they put a clause in there to lock out Dark Angels from the Codex detachments, but I don't see them doing that. Sort of the whole idea of 10th edition is play your army the way you want. That's why they released restrictions on the number of characters, and literally it's just you need one character and then max three of anything else, unless it's a dedicated transporter battle line, and then it's max six. I don't think they're going to deviate from that. I mean, Space Marines are a bit of a weird egg because we have these supplement chapters, but I don't think that we're gonna get locked out of play styles.
No. And I'm already prepared for Neophyte Wing. I got a bunch of them. Don't worry.
Neophyte wing, nice, nice.
Rule of three, psh, I'm prepared. Just in case. Just kidding.
I just finished those scout snipers for that I've had sitting on my shelf for the better part of like 10 years.
Just in time to use them in Horus Heresy.
What would be the disadvantage of playing Codex Divergent chapters then? Um, I mean, there isn't one. It's not currently. I mean, if you want to use stuff like, uh, you know, characters and whatnot from the Codex, like Reboot Gilliman or Marnius Calgar, or you want to use Pedro or whatever, Lysander, or some of these characters that are in the Codex, then you'd be locked out of your Divergent chapter stuff. So, but there's not really a disadvantage to playing them. You just get your ability stuff as well. Now you lose obviously anything that's in the, like for example, Righteous Crusaders. We don't get anything that's in that detachment other than the data sheets. We can take everything that's in our data sheets and everything that's in the other one, but we're not going to get like, any strats or enhancements, obviously, because that's detachment based.
Yeah.
So,
and I like it the way that it currently is, even if it does make some combos that are uh, potentially stronger than they would normally be. I'm looking at you, Thunder Cavalry, but still, I think it still works really, really well. We don't have allies, so to speak, anymore.
knights, that's
We had,
it.
yeah, knights and agents. So that's basically all we have. So
Yeah.
um, I think this is kind of a happy medium to be able to access all of the keyword detachments.
Yeah. Gavin asks, "Are sword bros still worth running if you don't have impulsors? I feel like they're very squishy." Yeah, I mean, it's sword impulsors. I think are the most competitive way to run them, but plenty of people are still sticking them in land raiders. You can. I've seen people do it 1 10-man block. I've seen people do 2 5-mans with character support in a land raider. I mean, there's definitely ways, to run them without it. Even strategic reserving them. One thing I would not do is put them in a drop pod because you can't charge out of a drop pod. So drop pods are basically gun unit only now. So yeah.
Which is unfortunate because they used to be able to.
So yeah, I think they're still viable. We just think the best way to run them is impulsors, but that's not necessarily the only way.
If you're talking about Bob, he would say, "Don't do it.
Well,
Don't do it.
but you're the
Put him in a transporter."
you're the tournament player, right? So it's if you're going to a tournament, just they're not going to perform. It's not going to perform as well as if they had impulsors. But I've seen plenty of people on our Discord talk about
Yeah,
having put them in Land Raiders or
yeah, Land Raiders
whatnot.
are okay.
So,
Like just in general, get them in a transport. Something that protects them while they get across the board.
right,
So they don't get
because
like
they
lost
are
in
they
transport.
are a bit squishy. 3 wounds helps them a lot, but they don't have an invul save, and um, you know, feel no pain is only for uphold. So
Yeah, let's just wait until your night spinners take them
exactly, I don't expect night spinners to be around much longer.
out. Probably not. Have you seen first Elder Eye nerf? No. What about second? I saw a meme like a Lord of Rings
Yep.
playoff just the other day, and I was like,
Pippin
"Oh
asking
man,
about breakfast.
yes."
You've already had one nerf, yes, but have we had second Elder nerf? So, Leek says, looking forward to seeing what the Dark Angels Codex is like. Will give us more of an idea of what kind of thing we can expect with ours. Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely interested to see what they get and what their codex looks like. Um, I'm also interested to see what these companions, these inner circle companions, are. Are they going to be like the new version of veterans, like they used to have? Are they going to be like sword bros? Like, what's going to be their role? Are they going to be actually good in combat? We'll have to see.
Paul, I need to address this immediately. You can attach the Emperor's Champion to the Sword Brother. So in the index, I believe it says that anything that is Assault Intercessor or Intercessor is a unit that, if they can lead an Intercessor squad or all Assault Intercessor squad, then they can lead the Sword Brethren or Primaris Crusader squad.
Well, but the Emperor's Champion himself, his sheet specifically says that he can lead
Yes.
the what you call it, Sword Bros as well. So
I have an Emperor's Champion attached to my Sword Brethren right now in part of my tournament list.
yeah.
I have been using it for quite a while.
Looking at it in the app, it says this model can be attached to the following units: Assault Intercessor Squad, Primaris Crusader Squad, Primaris Sword Brethren Squad, Stern Guard Veteran Squad. Why he can go with Stern Guard, I'll never know, but whatever. He can definitely go with with Sword Bros, and he is a absolute monster with Sword Bros. Just like Helbrecht, he's like Helbrecht light. He's not quite as good as Helbrecht, but both of them benefit massively from getting that +1 damage. So that means their sweep attacks. He has 10 attacks on his sweep that become damage 2. Now the AP is not as good as his strike, but it's still great to like clear, chaff and stuff like that, or light infantry, multi-wound light infantry, and then of course with Helbrecht, Helbrecht's it's funny because I almost never use his strike attack. I always use his sweep, because the math actually works out to about exactly the same, depending on what you're swinging into. But I like the extra dice because it's less variance and higher spike potential, right? So you have fewer attacks, you got to make sure those attacks get through, but the more dice accounts for dice roll variance, and then has higher spike potential. So if you roll really hot, then yeah, it can be great. Super chat from Sellers. Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you so much for that and for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
So something else. Omar asks, does Helbert plus 10 Sword Bros plus Apothecary? Honestly, I would, if I'm going to run a 10-man Death Star, because that's basically what that is a Death Star. They absolutely crush face. I am probably not taking an Apothecary. You can, it's not bad, but I would rather take a Castellan and get those free lethal hits, because now I don't need to necessarily use a strat or use a fervent acclamation to get those lethal hits. And when they charge out of a Land Raider, they already have it, which you can't use fervent on them when they're in the Land Raider. So I would run the Castellan instead. Plus, he's good in combat himself. Or a lieutenant. I mean, they're basically the same. Castellan and lieutenant. I think the lieutenant gets an extra attack and has the same gear options that our Castellan does. So whatever. But yeah, that's what I would do.
The other thing is, because it is a huge Death Star, it's going to be a huge target to your opponent. So it's going to get shot at with probably everything they have until it's dead. So you're going to not probably have the opportunity to use the Apothecary's Revive. So,
yeah. The Kraken Matt asks, can the EC join an Inferno squad? No. But weirdly, Grimaldus can. So I don't know why Grimaldus can do. Some of these choices are really weird to me. But yeah, Grimaldus can join an Inferno squad. Honestly, with our characters, 9 times out of 10, you want the EC with Sword Bros, you want Helbrecht with Sword Bros, and you want Grimaldus with a 20-man Crusader squad. Those are the top tier takes for our special characters, because of the way that they interact with those squads is significantly better than with any other squad. Something to keep in mind.
With Primaris Crusader squads too.
Yeah, like a big block of 20 of them. He works well with them as well. giving them lethal hits and +1 strength, or not lethal hits, I'm sorry, crit hits on 5s and +1 strength is really helpful. Something to keep in mind when you are thinking about putting a character with a unit. It's not like Ninth, where you took the character because the you know the unit was he's going to do stuff on his own and he's going to buff a whole bunch of stuff. That's not really the case anymore. Really, what you're looking at now when you're taking a character is how do these two units synergize together, right? What benefits does the character bring to the unit, and or what benefits does the unit bring to the character? Because sometimes it's both, right? So in the case of Sword Bros, they buff any character that they join or that joins them immensely with their +1 damage and +1 attack ability. So the two best characters for that are Helbrecht and the Emperor's Champion. Conversely, Grimaldus brings a host of special rules to a fat blob of Crusaders, that you get to choose from. So those are the things you want to think about when you're choosing a character to go with a squad. You want to think about how do these two synergize together to make a unit that's better than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, an example, another one, not well, it could be with the Black Templars, but the Apothecary and Gladius with the enhancement. I forget right off the top of my head.
Fire discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you put that on a Hellblaster squad, and typically your opponent's not going to want to shoot the Hellblasters because if you shoot at them and you kill them, then
they're going to shoot
have
back.
a good chance to shoot back, and then you can revive them again. So those are the kind of little synergies that you kind of want to look at for when you're utilizing your characters. Fortunately, the Space Marines Codex has a lot of these little things that we can do, especially when we're utilizing our Black Templars characters. So it's really nice. Earlier, Gavin asks, what would a BT melee tournament list look like? We did interview TJ, so it's tough to say because it's been a couple of months since Righteous Crusaders has won a tournament because we had the Space Marine Codex come out and pretty much everyone kind of switched over to Ironstorm, Firestorm, and then we still have about 40% of our player base still using Righteous Crusaders, and they're finishing high. But I don't think we've had a win since the Codex came out. Since we've lost a lot of players playing Righteous Crusaders, so that kind of hurts the win rate and the amount of chances at getting a tournament. But as far as what a tournament list would look like, I don't think melee heavy is viable. It has to be a complement to a balanced list, and that's going to be for any army out there, probably with the exception of like Drukhari and such, where they basically don't take any melee. It's just all guns, and that would be the kind of the exception to the rule. If you take all guns, that's better than all melee, obviously. But when I envision a tournament list and the things that I've seen that has done well, a couple of small units of Primary Sword Brethren has been good, particularly in Impulsors. I've seen a few lists that have taken large 20-man Premier Crusader squad, like one of them, and then complementing it with other different shooty elements throughout the list. I've seen a lot recently, even in Righteous Crusaders, a lot of Firstborn Crusaders with their guns and just running the Sword Brethren. I personally, even though I haven't made it to a tournament yet, but it's going to happen this year, namely because I'm going to be painted, and now that I've established my work schedule, I'll be able to take time off. So I have a list that runs 2 10-man Premier Crusader squads, and then I have 2 5-man Sword Brethren squads and Impulsors. And then I also have an aggressor squad. a Boltstorm Aggressor squad that I hold in the middle, but I may or may not be changing that in the near. We'll kind of see what the points play out with. But that's what my melee contingent looks like, and then everything else is guns. So, or support
Combination.
pieces.
Yeah. Well, and like too, you have units like aggressors that have both guns and are good in melee. Especially now that they really unnerfed their power fists, they just have better power fists now. They're twin linked. They hit on threes. They got 3 attacks each. So you know they're. I think they were hitting on fours. Before the in the index. Yeah, so I mean, you can run a bunch of melee, but you do got to support it with firepower because, for the most part, aside from some outliers like Helbert and some lethal hitting Primaris sword bros, you really need like ranged firepower, heavy ranged firepower to take down big targets. Stuff like Lancers, Vindicators, Ballistus Dreads, even Redemptors to a certain extent. You really need those units to be able to take out enemy stuff that's going to just murder your large blocks of stuff with blast weapons. And there's a lot of damage 2 stuff still out there. So, running more of a balanced list is going to be a better option for you. Pure melee is not a thing that is really viable right now, but that's honestly okay. Like I like tanks and I like dreadnoughts shooting and stuff like that. Like that's cool. That's Templar stuff too. So, um, you know,
One of the things I like about 10th though is just like the rules with the terrain and just the missions in general. Ninth edition was a very, very shooty oriented edition. And 10th edition, at least, like, you can do things with melee. And you kind of need it as a finishing piece on the board to ensure that things are dead and you progress. I don't really see, with exceptions, because the Elder, we all saw what Devastating Wounds did, and giving yourself free 6s. But
yeah.
you really don't table an opponent with shooting because there's just too much terrain on the board.
Cover is very easy to get.
Yeah. So with that exception, out of line of sight and the obviously our very, very nerfed Desolation Squad. they're trying to make it less so you can actually have a chance on playing the game. Or I'm sorry, they want it to be where you play the game. So
Yeah.
shooting is not really going to table anyone, but you do need it to play and be at least more competitive with your opponent. So I saw another question in here from Downton Stabby. So you asked how often the overarching narrative advances. I'll be quite honest with you. I think it was 8th edition when they came out with the new lore.
That was the
with
first
Gonzalez.
time that the timeline advanced in basically all of 40K. Like,
Yeah. 20
uh,
plus years
yeah.
that I've seen.
we were stuck at like the 999th year of the 41st millennium or whatever for almost the entirety of 40K. Like 8th edition was then they finally advanced it, and since then they're taking baby steps and advancing it some. So yeah, it's one of those things that like we're kind of in uncharted territory over the last couple editions of advancing the narrative, which I like. I'm glad they're advancing it, honestly, because it got boring being stuck in a place where you can't advance and just constantly being there. So something too, Paul asked, thinking of putting Helbert with company heroes. So Helbert cannot lead company heroes. And I know that some of the other captains and chapter masters from other non-compliant chapters were updated and Black Templars were not. I asked about that. I was told that it's a lore thing, something to do with the company champion that's in there. and that we're not going to be able to lead them. Which honestly, it's a cool looking unit, but it doesn't really do anything for us as Black Templars. There's nothing in that unit that really, like, it's a very confused unit. Like, it has one dude who's melee, it has one guy who has a good gun, and then the rest are just kind of whatever. So it's kind of like a very confused unit. It doesn't know what its purpose is. It's not very durable. There's no invulnerable saves. So yeah, they have 4 wounds and -1 to wound, but um, it's still pretty easy to go through them. So it's a neat unit. It's visually a cool unit, but tabletop wise, it's just not that great. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Crimson says, if I can bring Legends units, I did a Spartan 10-man sword bros with High Marshal and a Castellan, and another 10-man with Grimaldus, EC or Castellan and Marshal with Sigmund's Seal. That is a hilarious amount of points in one package. That's like more than half your army in one tank.
What do we have else? What secondaries should I bring as a new player with a relatively melee-heavy army? So I will give you a secret sauce that has been mathed multiple times in various different places. From people that are way better at math than I and have access to all of the data for wins and losses and all of the different missions that have been taken. Play tactical missions. A, they score you better. B, you can get resources if you don't get something that you need. And a lot of times, if you play fixed missions, your opponent will play to prevent you from getting those. And it's a lot harder to do that when they don't know what you're going to get.
Yep, I agree. It's kind of funny because when I was up in the mountains for our 40K weekend, several of the guys were playing fixed, and I'm like, have you tried tactical? Because you'll do much better playing tactical. And they're like, no, I don't know that I like the randomness of it. I'm like, trust me, just try it. Every one of them who tried it and hadn't played it before loved it. So tactical is the way to go, in my opinion. In like 99% of use cases, like Bob said, number one, your opponent can't plan to stop you, and number two, they're much more achievable. You also get more points per card than every time you achieve it than you get with fixed. I like them a lot better because even though some of them might seem impossible or hard, you can then just discard them and get CP, which is a very precious resource right now because you're only getting 2 a turn, and there's a lot of things you want to spend CP on.
Yep. It's a very rare list that will take fixed, and it's typically an army that is literally built to get that secondary.
Yeah.
And it has multiple different faucets to get it, multiple different ways to overload that secondary so that they can get it. And it often will take a very savvy, experienced player to make sure that that happens. I mean, if you look at like players like Art of War, it's the best team in the world. Is they win pretty much every team tournament that there is that they go to. But they play tactical like 95% of the time, and there's a reason for it. So it's the secret sauce is play tactical unless you really want to, and if you're playing like in a competitive, but in general, in still, it's tactical scores you more points. It's harder to prevent you from scoring points, and just overall, it's just better. I was very skeptical at first when it first came out. And
I was too.
with it because I was so used to playing fixed and picking objectives. And there's a reason why we haven't done an objective video. Is that reason? Is
Yeah.
because it shook out to be that tactical was just so much better that we just didn't even need to talk about objectives because it's random.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'll be much more successful with tactical.
Yeah. And there's honestly like a lot of the tactical missions that I'm looking at them right now that revolve around things that you want to do anyway, like hold objectives or take objectives from opponents. There's a fairly large number of that, so rare are the objectives that want you to do something that you wouldn't want to otherwise. And one of the harder ones to achieve in that regard is like which one is it? Investigate signals, where you got to be in the corners of the board because you don't really want to be in the corner of the board. But yeah, a good chunk of them are either kill something in the opponent, take an objective from them, do something on an objective, those types of things, which are all very achievable, regardless of sort of where you're at in the game. So you can score points throughout the game using those. Leaks asks, do Templars have any other prominent characters in books, general lore, etc., that you could see turning up as a new character in the game? Not really. So we've had some in the past, but they haven't featured in recent lore. People like Castle and Draco, who apparently, according to some tidbit from the Codex Space Marines under, I think, Lysander or Torgaradon's entry. I think it was Tor's entry.
Lysander.
Was it Lysander? I can't
I think
remember.
It was Lysander.
It was one of those two. One of the two Imperial Fists. They mentioned Castle. They mentioned Draco of the Templars, and then later on, in that same tidbit, they mentioned that he was like excommunicated for deeds too unspeakable to talk about or something like that. So apparently he turned traitor, but we have no other information on it, so we don't even know what's going on. So theoretically, there's Castle and Draco. We had a dreadnought in the Damnation Crusade book who was pretty prominent, named Tancred. Other than that, we haven't really had too many super prominent characters that aren't covered by the Emperor's Champion. We've had quite a few prominent Emperor's Champions, but I mean, we have a Emperor's Champion unit, so I don't see us getting a unique named character Emperor Champion.
Maybe he was excommunicated because he had a force that was larger than 1,000 Marines.
I don't know. I'd have to go read that bit of lore again.
I don't think it says he was traitorous. I just said it was like, it just kind of alluded to saying, hey, it's something bad for the Imperium. So,
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact wording, but I'm pretty sure it didn't say he was a traitor, though. But I could be wrong. It's been a while. But that would be a fun model that we've had in the past to get back. Although his previous model was kind of meh.
Well, I mean, it's metal, and it's like, 100 years old. I actually have him in a drawer somewhere.
He's got a bolter and a power sword, and then he's got that really old style, like, faced grill rebreather thing.
Yeah. He's got the old school classic Space Marine pose where he's like, doing one of these. So, yeah. He would be interesting to see what they would do with him, but I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's plenty of characters in books, but none of them are as prominent as Helbert or Cormaldus. So I don't know. We'd have to see. There were some, like we said, those two, Tancred and Draco, were the only other two that come to mind that I can think of.
All right, so shifting gears a little bit here. So Alex, what are you playing going into 2024 with your Black Templars?
So that's a good question, Bob. Um, so I have my list that did really well at my 40K weekend. I like that list a lot. Um, which to kind of quickly go over that list so you guys know what I'm talking about. Um, let me pull up my new recruit. So that list has the Emperor's Champion Helbrecht, a Lieutenant with Combi, two 10-man Crusader squads, Primaris Crusader squads, two 5-man Assault Intercessors with jump packs, Infiltrators, of course, two 5-man Primaris Sword Bros, 5-man Scout Squad, 5-man Terminator Squad, two Lancers, a Vindicator, and two Impulsors. So obviously the Sword Bros go in the Impulsors. Um, the things I liked about that list, Helbrecht and Sword Bros and the ECN Sword Bros absolutely slapped. They murdered almost everything they touched. They were really, really great to use as like a unit. Now, I often did not get to do fervent acclamation on them because I was usually hopping them out. I'd move the impulsor into position, and then I'd hop them out and then charge something. So I really didn't get a chance to do that often, which is unfortunate because that's what I would like to do. But that's sort of terrain dependent to be able to hide them for a turn, which I wasn't always willing to do. So anyway, I really like them. The Primaris Crusaders are a great unit because they can do damage in melee, they can do actions for you, they can hold objectives. I really like them with the Scout move. The Scout move is awesome. The Assault Jump Pack guys are also awesome. A fast-moving unit that can deal a little bit of damage in melee. They're not great in melee, but they're fast and they're reliable, right? So, and then the Vindicator. Man, I love my Vindicator. It's so much fun to shoot that thing. It's so much better than it was in 9th. I'm so glad it's a good tank again. It is still on the pricey side. I think it's 190. Still feels a little bit high for it. But honestly, it drew a lot of fire. It either lived the whole game or it got taken out relatively early because they were worried about it instead of my Lancers, which is what did most of the damage. So the things I was not a super fan of in that list was the Terminators. I like Terminators. They are really cool, and but they just didn't do a ton, and their utility was not quite as good as what I'd hoped from them. I mean, they were helpful, don't get me wrong, but they just didn't. I don't know. They were sort of lacking something in that list. And then the Lieutenant with Combi. There were games where his reroll was irrelevant, and there were games where it was really helpful. So I'm not sold on him yet either. So going forward, I do want to try some other list archetypes. I want to get a list in there with Grimaldus and a 20-man block. Not sure what to put around him. Probably similar units. Probably, I'm thinking if I'm going to take a block with Grimaldus, that I might run one or two other 10-man Crusader squads too. Not only as just distraction stuff, but also helps to, do actions and things like that. I do want to run, I know Orion from our Discord, he's a big tournament player, and he has been having a lot of success running a 10-man block of Terminators with a Chaplain and what's it called? Tannhauser's Bones on it. So now they get +1 to wound. They've got a 5+, feel no pain. They're really hard to shift. They got 4 wounds because he's using the assault version. And I know the Thunderhammer seems lackluster on the surface, but you march this block up the field, and if you slap sustained hits on them, Now they are basically with, if they're hitting an oath target, they're going to make all their hit rolls essentially with the sustained. It makes up for their 4+ to hit. And then on top of that, if you really need some extra damage output from them, when you're doing that, you can also then slap on the Crusader's Wrath and give them an extra AP, which is really
Yeah.
valuable. So I want to try that, a list with that as well. So there's really kind of a lot of things that I want to try. It's really going to be a matter of uh, can I get some games in. Speaking of which, I have I'm actually going to a tournament. My local game store is doing an RTT the beginning of February, so I have just over a month. I got to figure out what list I want to run and play as many games as possible between now and then with that list, so I can really practice up for it because it's been a long time since I've been to a tournament, and one thing that's nice is that I don't have to worry about painting. Everyone knows I'm a slow painter. They don't have painting is not required in this tournament, and it's not scored.
Oh,
So
nice. I was just gonna say, but they're probably still gonna score it.
no, they do not score painting in this. So it's out of 90. Which is great because I probably won't be able to paint up enough points for it. I'm back on the train though as far as painting. I'm doing well with my hobby challenge. We're about 2/3 of the way through it now, and with like another month to go. I'm getting stuff painted a little bit faster than I was previously because I have motivation to do it now. So the hobby challenge has worked. But yeah, those are some things I want to try in 2024. I want to get a list with a block with Grimaldus, and I want to try out a block of Terminators. And get some more use out of fervent acclamation. And I do want to try the other detachments as well. You guys will see in our what do you
Deep
call
dives.
it? Deep dives. Thank you. We've got lists that we built for that as well. So yeah. So I want to see what how those play out as well. So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting year. What about you, Bob?
So, unfortunately, while I have gotten games locally, I haven't been able to attend any tournaments, which is the bane of my existence. This last year has been tough. Um, but this year, I haven't gotten any tournament play in with Righteous Crusaders since 10th editions come out and since the new codex, obviously. So I want to try and get at least 2 tournaments in with Righteous Crusaders because I think I have a list that can win one. Um, but I really, 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 really like my Riding Dirty list for Firestorm, and I want to play that one too. That was kind of my meme when the codex came out. Um, Riding Dirty and using impulsors. I don't use as many as I did before, but I still like the list a lot. The theme of it, and I want to get some reps in with that. I feel like that list is gonna probably see less nerfs, um, at least in the units that I use. So maybe I'll start off with it and then come back to Righteous Crusaders. I'm not sure because I've gotten a lot of reps in with my Righteous Crusaders list. Um, I'm about probably 75% win rate with it, but it's against the local players, so I don't know where we would sit in a tournament. But I'm out of practice, which is I'll probably need a tune-up tournament because it's just a different style. You have to play a lot faster. You have to make decisions a lot quicker. So I'm out of practice, unfortunately. So I have to get one of those. The theory behind a tournament I obviously still got and all that stuff, but the actual doing it on the board is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the players around here are a little bit more casual. My competitive scene kind of moved away, so unfortunately, there's not very many people that are around here that still play competitively that have time to play. Um, So it'll be interesting to see. So I got to get a tournament right away. Hopefully, I can find something close by because I still have two little neophytes that are younger, so I can't like travel to like a LVO or something like that right now. Gotta make sure that I'm close by that it can be a short weekend jaunt. But yeah, that's kind of my plan right now. Is two tournaments at least with Righteous Crusaders, and I kind of talked about like the core of my list earlier. Two Primaris Crusader squads. I got Aggressor squad. Two Impulsor filled with Sword Brethren. Two Lancers. Calidus. Have Inceptors. So a lot of the things that you would see in it, and I just take them in different ratios than I've seen in other lists. A lot of times I don't see the Sword Brethren paired with the Primaris Crusader squads or what have you. So it has been doing well. It's just too much for my opponent typically to play around. But it has the games that I've struggled are the ones that pure MSU lists that have so many units on the board that I can't get across everything. So that's why I want to potentially take a look at the aggressors and split them up and get some scouts and smaller units in there.
Split them up.
So, yeah.
So, speaking of Inceptors, I caved in and I bought Inceptors. I got a really good deal on them though. I got them on eBay for $45 for 3 of them. So, I think they retail for 60, and a lot of the since they're very very popular right now, a lot of the eBay sellers are selling them for like 75 or 80. So
I missed the boat.
Yeah, I bought 3. I fully magnetized them and made them look not ridiculous because one of you guys know obviously some of the things that I hated the most about them. The skis were easy to get rid of, fortunately, just clipped off their little pegs that hold the skis on. That was easy. The harder part was reposing them because they have, some of them especially have these really derpy poses where they look like a cartoon character, honestly, like, with their legs splayed out and, they just look goofy. So I reposed them, did some conversion there. Really like how they came out, and then I fully magnetized their arms because in a shocking turn of events, GW actually gives you an arm for each gun. So you've got 2 full sets of arms. Normally it's like, oh, well, here are the arms, and then you put the gun in the arm kind of thing is usually what they typically do. So you have to choose. In this case, you don't have to choose. The only thing that it's missing is an extra 6 shoulder pads, which should be pretty easy to source. But fully magnetized, so I can go plasma or I can go bolter. And then I'm pinning the flight stands. I don't like since I am altering the pose, and I'm not a big fan of the smoke trail flight stands that third-party people use, which I'm sure are much more stable. So I'm going to use the GW flight stands and see how it goes. I pinned it, so that should hold it much better, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm kind of excited to paint them because they're thematically they're an awesome unit. Drop in 3 inches away and start blazing at something. That sounds super Templar.
Yeah, they're great units. They've been pretty much key to so many different players scoring points. So I think you really need at least 1 unit in the list.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to kill something with them, you probably need 2 units. But
Yeah.
I don't necessarily use them to kill anything. I use them to contest objectives or take them.
Clear chaff or clear, what do you call it? Lone operatives. They're great for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And either option is good. That's why I magnetized them. There's no clear winner. The bolters are great with their sustained hits. and the plasma is really good too. It just depends on what you're trying to do with them, I guess.
I've seen a lot of players take one of each,
Hmm.
especially tournament players, and that messes with my slight OCD a little bit too much. Uh, but I can understand the draw. Then it gives you a little bit of hey,
Flexibility.
whatever, yeah, whatever you need them for.
Absolutely. So,
Got to put my lists in the chat here since people may not know what I'm talking about. In case you want to know the list that I'm running, because most people do.
yeah, I've been trying to decide what I'm swapping in my list that I ran a 40K weekend. I'm going to drop the Terminators, and I'm probably going to drop the Lieutenant with Combi. And I want to try to figure out what to include with that instead, because combined, the Lieutenant with Combi is 70 points, and the Terminators are 185. So I've got 255 points to spend there. I have one version of the list where I take a chaplain with a jump pack instead, and another 10-man assault intercessors with jump packs, making them more of an actual melee threat. I kind of like that idea because it'll allow me to use fervent on them. Um, and he's got, think, what did I give? Did I give him anything? I don't think I did. No, he doesn't have anything because I don't have enough points. So I'd love to give him T-Bones, but I just don't have the points for it. So that's one option. I thought about including Inceptors, but that leaves me with like 145 points, and I'm not sure what I would take for 145 points. Maybe a Ballistus? I don't know.
Yeah,
What would you take, Bob? What's your suggestion?
you can always go a third Sword Brethren with Impulsor. You
Well,
buy another Impulsor.
I'd have to buy a fifth tank. And listen, I've already got to assemble two more tanks here, so yeah, no.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of building the
I
Impulsor.
hate building the impulsor. I hate it.
It's
It
it's
is I part of it is the veins, the grav
the
veins,
things on the side.
the things on the
Yes.
side.
Oh,
I
so
hate
annoying.
those things. I hate those things, and there's a lot of other little like bits and pieces on it, like that you got to kind of keep separate, otherwise you can't paint it, which annoys me as well. Speaking of which, though, I do need to order two more closed backs from, I want to say it's Models and Minis. Let me.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different companies that do that.
There's a bunch of different. Let's see.
I guess I prefer the El Camino look.
I hate the El Camino look. So that's why yeah, it's Models and Minis. Models and Minis makes a great one. When I got my first
Yeah.
Impulsor, I have one that's painted. I bought that for it, and it's fantastic. Their kit is resin. It's great. It comes with a drop-in top, so you can put like a thing for the impulsor. You can just put things that look like rhino doors. You can put like a full turret thing on there. So I really like theirs. For I then with when I started getting other because I have two gladiators now, and I decided I'm gonna make them convertible, right? So I didn't glue the back half on. If you glue the right angle together of the rear hatch, it just fits snugly enough that it doesn't matter. You can take it out or put it back in. So I can make it into an impulsor or not, which I like. But for those two, I bought some from Pop Goes the Monkey, and I'm not impressed. I First of all, they have a lot of 3D print lines on them. which I sanded down one, and then I I was looking at it and I pulled it off something the other day. It's been sitting on my desk, and it's warped. It's already warped, and I'm like, you know what? I paid for these, but whatever. I'm just going back to Models of Mini, and I'm going to buy two more of theirs and go with that. I'll probably buy three because I have a total of four impulsor chassis. One of them is glued down, so it's always going to be an impulsor. But if I wanted to run three Gladiators, then I'll be able to. So, yeah. Models and Mini, highly recommend if you want the Rhino look, the enclosed Rhino look for them. They have a really great kit.
All right, so I'm going to pose the same question to the folks in the chat while we're kind of talking. Is like, what are you running in the next little bit or for 2024? Keeping in mind that we're probably going to see Catch a Nerf for Iron Storm.
Yeah.
With that being said, any other questions you may have? Because we're kind of getting to that point where we're at question mode. So if you have questions for us, keep on shooting them our way. But yeah, what's your goals for 2024? What's your armies looking like going into the fort into this? What are you gonna buy to add to a list? So,
And to kind of add to that, what are your hobby goals for 2024? I know the painting hobby aspect is not as big as for Bob as it is for me. For me, I'm still in the midst of my 100-day challenge, and I am I'm excited. My goal for hobby for 2024 is to get as much stuff done. Like get number one, at least a full 2,000 point army that's competitive because I have 2,000 points of painted stuff. It's just not all of it's competitive. And some of it's legends now. Like my attack bikes, my land speeders are all legends. So a competitive list that is fully painted. That's one of my goals. But also just to continue painting and get as much stuff done as possible is really one of my hobby goals. I've really enjoyed the hobby challenge that I set forward when I started it. I was like, what have I got myself into? 100 days is a long time, but it's really been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've really appreciated all the encouragement and feedback you guys have given me. So I probably will still do some updates around that once the 100 days is over, but it won't be daily. So,
I have to smile at this. Downtown Stabby, knowing only a little bit about list building, I want to field a list with 150 Crusaders. What could possibly go wrong? I have to smile at that. I don't know if we can do it. I haven't worked out the math on it, but having just like an entire, I know you can at least get 100 plus. There was a YouTube personality. I can't think of his name. He towards the end of the 9th edition, maybe it was 10th. I don't remember. He went to a tournament with like 120 Crusaders, and I was like,
yeah.
that's hilarious, hilarious. So go for it. Do it. The look on your opponent's face when you're black orcs is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know that you can fit because even if you took 6 times 20 is only 120 Crusaders, Primaris Crusaders.
But you could do the firstborn.
You could do the firstborn. So that would be what 12 or 6 squads times 280. Six 20-man squads is 1,680 points. That's 120 Crusaders. So you've got room to take some more.
Oh no! Paint your 5th edition or 5th Black Templars army. Don't sell it.
Don't sell it.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. So I made the mistake many times. So it's kind of a inside joke. but I have a Drukari army, and I haven't played it yet. I'm very excited to play it because I have some friends that are wanting to get into 40k, and they don't have armies, so it's going to be escalation style. But I have like 5,000 points of Drukari that I've never played, because every time I want to play a list, it's always the Black Templars. But
Heresy.
gotta expand. Anyway, long story short, is I've sold the army probably like 4 or 5 times over the course of since 5th edition when they got re-released after 20 years. And this time, even though I'm like, oh, maybe I should sell them, I haven't played them. I'm not gonna do it because I know they're gonna get a new codex and they're gonna be the most amazed balls ever again. And then I'd be like, God, I'm not gonna rebuy all these stupid things again. I'm
Yeah,
not doing it.
that's what happens. Yeah, so some other folks, Wolish says, Goal 1, finish all the models I've bought this year. Goal 2, actually play a single game.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I feel your pain. I have, according to my pile of potential, I have about 10,000 points of Black Templars currently. That doesn't include any units that I have still that are legends. Yeah, not even half of it's painted. So, and then I also own Necrons, and then I also own Tzeentch Demons, which are dumpster fire bad right now. And then I also own like a ton of other miniatures from other game systems. So I have just a small problem. I can stop anytime I want. Gavin says, I need to pick up armor. Went really heavy in the infantry in 9th edition, and it's kind of come back to bite me in the ass. Yeah, you definitely need some tanks. But
Get some Lancers if you can.
yeah, get some Lancers if you can. Ballistus Dreadnoughts are a decent alternative that should be fairly cheap to get right now because they printed 1 billion and whatever, Leviathan boxes. So yeah.
Yeah, they are fairly cheap, and I was actually looking the other day. If you want some painted ones, there's a bunch on eBay.
Yeah. Yeah. Chapter Master Joe joined the Crusade after getting gifted an army for Christmas, so I am now in the process of building and then painting them up. Going yellow and black. Any tips for a new BT player? Yeah, watch this channel. Join our Discord. Those are my quick tips for Templars. No, for real though, like we have a lot of great content as far as like how to run certain squads, how to utilize them. Our detachment deep dives are going to be really useful. And we have our Discord is loaded with helpful people that are always there to answer questions, give great advice, and things like that. It's a really great community of folks, so check that out as well.
Yeah. Straight off the bat, though, I would say as a new BT player, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with the game in general, but design a list, build to it, and play it a lot.
Yeah.
You may lose, but you really kind of want to see what you have and play it so you're familiar with that particular list. And then you can make adjustments for what you do or don't like. So you can make a lot of mental reps on list building, and we'll kind of talk about that. I'm going in building lists. I'm going to try and start editing some videos. I'm dabbling my feet a little bit on some of that stuff, so you might see some solo videos from me. Not as fancy as Alex's stuff, but we'll see. Maybe you come throw in some final finishing touches. And Bob, what the heck did you do? You're lowering the quality of the channel. But
I'll send you all the elements that I use. No big deal.
So I'm going to be doing some list building stuff because that's one thing that I am actually really good at. I may not be as good as some of the top table players as far as like tactical play on the table. That's where they'll get me, but I make up a lot of that in the list building stage. I know what works and how things synergize. together. But so I'm going to talk about list building and those different detachments after we get into the deep dive. So that'll help as well if that's not something that you're good at. Um, but I do have some biases, so you'll have to take that into account. So yeah, just play what you like
Yeah.
initially a lot, and then kind of decide what you do or do not like out of the stuff that you have. That would be my biggest suggestion.
Yeah.
And play tactical missions.
Play
Play
tactical.
tactical missions.
Gavin says, "Good to know. Not convinced that gladiator lancers actually exist." Well, they do because I have one right here, so which it keeps trying to block out, but you get the idea.
They're not as rare in the wild as they once were because they came in stock, and then they're out of stock again. But
Yeah, check your
stores
local
have
game
them.
stores. Those kind of things. It's hilarious. Like I was waiting to, I was trading or selling some Kill Team stuff that I got that I didn't need because they were Tau and sisters, and I was waiting in the store to meet this person to sell it to them, trade it to them. So I was just looking around at what stuff my game store had, and there's so many boxes of Desolation Marines. Like I think there was like 8 boxes of Desolation Marines, and there was another unit too, and I can't remember which one it was that there was just like so many boxes of. It was really funny. They have a bunch of Crusader squads, which was also humorous, but still waiting for the mythical Land Raider to appear. Yeah, that one's been hard to get lately too. Land Raiders are pretty good now. My only disappointment is that I don't have a Land Raider Redeemer. I have 2 Land Raider Crusaders, but I don't have a Redeemer. So I'd love to run one in either Firestorm or Righteous Crusaders. They're good in both, but yeah, I'll just have to use my Crusaders and hope for the best.
Yeah, sellers. It's unfortunate, because honestly, when they make a balance patch or a points change, then the stores are like, oh. And something that's little known is if you're going to remain a stocky or a stockist for Games Workshop, they require you to have specific kits on your shelves to remain part of their stockist. I don't remember the term.
Yeah,
My game owner,
supplier.
the supplier. So they you have to have a certain kits and b a certain percentage of certain like games on the shelf for them, so that they can continue to get the discounts
I
that
think they
they
have a buyback program though.
on some stuff
Yeah,
on some stuff. But like for example, in my game store, it's I went to my game store. His name is Rob, and I was like, "Dude, you need to like eBay all of these firstborn stuff. They've been sitting on the shelf. They're never gonna sell. They're going away. You need to eBay them right now." He's like, "I can't because if they're not in the store and they do send auditors, those are required to be on the shelf." So he can't even sell them on eBay because Games Workshop sends auditors to the game stores to make sure that those things are on the shelf. And he's
that's
like,
wild.
it's like
There's no
twice a
forced.
month.
There's no firstborn stuff at my LGS. Now he has 2 accounts too. He's an absolutely massive game store. I mean, it's he's. I think he told me that he is has like one of the biggest accounts in like all of the Southeast USA, because he has 2 accounts with GW. Always gets a massive allocation for stuff. I think he has. I think he still has a Leviathan box on the shelf, which you can't find anymore. He definitely gets a ton of stuff, and it's probably the biggest game store in one of the biggest game stores in Atlanta. Um, so um, so yeah, Joe says awesome. Thanks so much. How do I join the Discord? You're getting the link for him. Perfect. We'll pop that in the chat for you, Joe. Um,
Make sure to
Gavin,
download Discord if you
yeah,
haven't already.
yeah. Gavin says, what are your thoughts on list building between ninth and 10th? Any preference one way or another? So it's vastly different between ninth and 10th. Ninth was very nitty gritty. Well, not towards the end when we got free war gear, but ninth was became very like, oh, I got 5 points to spend here. Oh, blah blah blah. I actually initially the like min max unit sizes and the free war gear was like a little off putting when 10 started, but now I actually really like it. And the reason why I like it is if, let's say, GW needs to balance a unit and they, let's say, Firstborn Crusaders, they're not staying 65. There's no way. My guess is going to be 75 to 80 points. So let's say they go up to, I don't know, 75 points. So that's 10-point difference. In ninth edition, you just be like, oh, I'll just drop this piece of war gear. Problem solved, right? That I was taking to fill points anyway, right? Now in 10th edition, with the way unit sizes work and the way your war gear and stuff, you can't just drop 10 points somewhere. That's a whole unit that you have to swap out. So increasing a unit's points cost, especially if it's a unit you're taking multiple of, getting up to like 30, 40 points, before you could easily just drop some pieces of war gear or something like that to compensate for it and still be running essentially the same list. Now you're swapping out a whole unit. So I really like that change. I feel like it gives you more opportunity to be like, what other unit can I put in here for this points cost? And I think they've also done a better job of balancing the units against each other. Whereas in ninth, you were just always going to take some unit over another. And sometimes that's the case, but, for example, you need some anti-tank firepower, right? So we've got Lancers, we've got Repulsor Executioners, we've got Ballistas Dreadnoughts, even Predator Annihilators are good. We have a lot of options that in ninth, not Vindicators, not as many of those units were good enough to take. And so I like list building a lot more now. I think it's a lot easier. It's not as granular for new players, which helps grow the game. So overall, I'm really happy with it. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, so I was one of the few people, I feel like, the perception was that actually really liked this change coming into 10th edition. So most people were very angry that it was basically switching to power level,
Yeah.
AOS style list building. But I liked it a lot better because it was more of a puzzle for me. So I love list building. That's what I do. That's my thing. So I could spend all day going over lists and rebuilding lists and synergizing because I can mentally play a game in my head. I have enough experience. I can mentally play the game in my head already, how the matchup it's going to go, what I need, so I can change it in my head. So you should see my different list building apps. I have like dozens and dozens of lists, different variations. But for me, it was more of a puzzle. So previously, with all the different war gear, it was basically like, think of it like, I don't know, make this, it's a terrible analogy, but like, um, it was more of like baking. So what kind of sprinkle am I going to put on my donut? To add the last few little pieces of points. That's basically what it was. Just like
Yeah.
you knew the unit that you're going to take because it was
I'll
the
just
best unit.
sprinkle some power weapons on this unit instead,
Yep, yep. So now it's more like you're actually like, okay, if you don't have, as you mentioned, if you don't have that 10 points, you have to change your list completely and still find a way to fill that role. Maybe it's not an as ideal a unit to do that, but you still have to fill that role in your list. So I like it a lot because I think it makes it. more challenging, even though you don't have to pay for war gear. So I really I like that about it. So for example, if I took out my in my Righteous Crusaders list, if I took out my uh, aggressor unit, that's 220 points. How am I going to utilize that to get what I need to fill up my points and still get a unit that fulfills a particular role in that list, or where it's my mid-board bully unit. So if I take that out because I decide, hey, well, they're just not really doing what I need them to do, or whatever it may be, what am I going to put there? How am I going to fit that unit in? And those are the things that I really like about this style of list building, because it's more of a piece, a puzzle.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, I'm building a combo pack of donuts. How can I make them fit into the box, with the most efficiency? So that's what I really kind of like about it.
Yeah, I agree. I also I like the min max squad sizes more than I thought I would, and part of that is because like, okay, well, I I want to take Terminators and I want to take more than five, but I don't have points for 10, so I guess I'll take eight. I just hate like these weird odd numbers. I like, and maybe this is just me, but I like even numbers of things. Like this is either the minimum size unit or it's the maximum size unit, and there's nothing in between. Yeah, I like it to be, now the exception to that is these three-man units that can go to six. Taking a five-man unit would be nice, like Blade Guard would be nice to take a five-man Blade Guard, because then they could fit in a transport with a character. But we're not really running Blade Guard anyway, and Sword Bros fill that role for me. So I'd rather take Sword Bros over Blade Guard. My poor Blade Guard have just been sitting on the magnetized tray for ages.
But like, I even like that though, because like then that's something I have to consider in my list building. So it's like, oh, if I want to use uh, these Blade Guard, then I know I can't have a character, so I have to put that into the overall scheme of the list. I'm like, okay, so that unit is going to be a close combat thing, but it can't have a character unless I walk them. So then I have to play the scenario. Okay, if I want it to work out this way, then I have to do that, and I love that about it. So list building is a lot better for me.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of just nerding out on it, but yeah, I do have some list biases because I do have slight OCD tendencies, at least on like list building, that type of thing, and so I have to have things that look nice on paper before I like put it on the board. I hate so I have one Inceptor squad in my list, and it takes like everything I have to not notice that, because like I hate having only one. I'm all about synergies and redundancy, so I have to like have two. Twos is like my thing.
I
So
can I can live with a one-off unit if that one-off unit has like a particular purpose, like infiltrators, inceptors, right? Um, I I what I don't like is taking like one of each, right? So what would irritate me is if I only had enough points to take a lancer, a vindicator, and a ballistus dreadnought. Like, and that's how that would irritate me. But I can do like two and one. So like my one list that has two lancers and a vindicator, that makes sense to me, and it might be some slightly OCD tendency as well that I like it to feel like if I were to set this on the table, would it look cool? Does it make sense in my head? So that same thing, right? Um, if I'm going to run a block of 20 Crusaders, that's fine. If I want to run more Crusaders, it's going to be two more dudes. I don't want to do a 10 man and a 20 man because that feels out of balance to me, right? So I'm kind of the same way. Speaking of list building, I'll use this moment to plug the new recruit list builder. It's a web-based list builder. You can also download it in an app style. It's not an actual app. But if you go to if you're logged in to it on your mobile device and you go to the options button, there's a button that says install New Recruit, and it'll put an icon on your desktop, on your mobile desktop, and then it acts like an app, which is great. New Recruit is fantastic. I know a lot of people are still using BattleScribe, and I'm going to tell everyone don't use BattleScribe. It's abandonware. The actual creator, a lot of you probably know too that I'm one of the data authors for BattleScribe, or was. Still am technically, because New Recruit uses the same data that BattleScribe does. The guy that owns BattleScribe abandoned the app like 3+ years ago, almost about 3.5 years ago, and the only time that he's popped back up was when the app stores threatened, well, not threatened, but were getting ready to drop his app because it hadn't been updated in so long. So he popped up, did an update that was meaningless just to keep it on the stores, and then disappeared again. Meanwhile, he's just raking in tons of money off of this from the ads and the subscriptions. Excuse me. Sorry, something got caught in my throat there. So, in any case, use New Recruit. It's a really awesome app, and the devs for it are amazing. They are really responsive to fixing stuff and adding new features and that kind of stuff. So, we got a few more minutes here. Anyone have any last minute questions?
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what you said, because I was talking on mute. Uh, yeah, New Recruit also added in some things that we suggested to them to help us do some of our videos. So we're going to be able to do some potential list building, streaming.
Yep.
So that could be something that we're going to be doing here soon. So we can use like columns, double columns, because you used to not be able to do that. It used to be all in a single column, and it made it impossible to show the entire list.
You did without scrolling. Yeah.
So.
And the other thing too is that New Recruit, you can customize how it looks. So you can change the colors, you can change the background. Like, there's so many different ways you can customize it visually to appeal to you. There's a lot of options that they have. And the other thing that I like about it is that unlike BattleScribe, which 99% of the people using it were waiting for AppSpot to update, which means that we would push an update with new, data and bug fixes, and AppSpot would crash, and it would be hours before it would come back to life and people would be able to download the data. New Recruit, when we push an update to go live, it's there within 10 minutes. And it doesn't crash. So it reads the data directly from our live master on GitHub, which makes it super fast to update. You can also sync your lists. So if you're using the mobile version that you downloaded from the browser, and then you go to your computer and you load up New Recruit on the web page, it syncs those, so I don't have to recreate my lists on my computer versus my phone. I can just, they're all there, which is awesome. DJ Vincon says, maybe I missed it at the beginning of the stream, but did you discuss what we possibly get as a new unit with our codecs? Yeah, we did kind of discuss some options on that. So definitely check that out. But the short and the long of it is Bob thinks Terminators. I think Terminators is a possibility, or maybe a character like Draco or a Dreadnought or something like that. So
I think it's going to be Terminators. It better be Terminators.
So Omar says, any tips on getting the firstborn Crusaders? I know they're going to be legends. but you okay if people run them as the Primaris version? So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna wait and see what they are gonna become points wise in January, and that'll determine how many of them I want to run in whatever lists I'm going to run them in. And I have enough bits from the days of yore where I'm just going to convert some extra Primaris Marines that I have into Firstborn loadouts because I like them much better than the old models. I'll still use the old models if I need to, but yeah, I wouldn't. I would just try to get the bits like the las cannons and stuff like that. If you're gonna do that, and just make Primaris versions of them because technically lore wise, or tabletop wise, there's not really a difference between Primaris and not Primaris anymore. See all the characters. Captain can go with tactical squads or with, tactics squads and whatever. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, the only thing is because like the size difference of the weaponry for the firstborn. So like things like if you're gonna use like las cannons, it might look a little funny on the
Honestly,
Primaris.
I think the weapons scale better on the Primaris models. Like I mocked up a grav cannon guy with a Primaris body, and I think it looks much better versus like this gun that's like as big as the Marine himself trying to tote this thing around. Like it actually looks appropriately sized on the Primaris dude. So yeah, and that's part of the reason I was like, man, that looks so much better. So that's why I'm gonna probably, but I'm gonna wait and see how bad they get nerfed in January. And there's a good chance that they're gonna legends the unit in when we get our codex, but we don't know when that's gonna be. So in the meantime, once we see what the points are, that's when I'm gonna start converting some of the extra bits I have into dudes, and it'll allow me to use like my bolt rifle intercessor models that are otherwise never going to see the table because they they just they're just not worth it to me to run intercessors. I'd rather run other units that are do more things for me.
Yeah, I want to be. I'm very surprised, honestly, that there is any firstborn left. To be honest with you, because I had word from a very reliable source that they're getting axed in 10th edition. So
I mean, they mostly did.
they did a lot of them,
There's
but we
van
still have like
vets and tacticals,
Devastator squads.
devastator squads, and that's
So
pretty
there's
much
still
it.
units
Yeah,
in there. So I'm thinking in 2.0 they're going to be gone. So
could be.
because Space Marines always get two codexes in addition. So
Not always. We didn't get one last year, or last edition. They were talking
so
about it, but they never did it. So
yeah, because we're what 4 or 5 years away from the next edition now. So at current rate, 3 4 years at most.
yeah,
So this is definitely gonna be the last edition for them. So I wouldn't invest in any of the firstborn models. So
yeah.
converting the Primaris is probably the way to go. And if you do it, and if you have the patience for it, try and magnetize them so that you can just go back and change them.
Well, and the other thing too, Willis, real quick says, would that mean a new type of PCS with different loadouts? I've thought about that, and this is actually, I was just getting ready to mention something along those lines. If we look at some units that have sort of been converted, as it were, right? Stern Guard now have Primaris models, and they were formerly a firstborn unit. I can see us getting a new tactical squad, a new Devastator squad, right? That has Primaris sized models and is just essentially now what a lot of people think they should have done in the beginning, which was just make upscaled models, make the models bigger, like we true scale, whatever Space Marines, and so we might see tacticals and devastators and whatever live on only just as Primaris models instead of and get the tactic as keyword instead of a firstborn unit, right? So I think those old kits are going to eventually get axed, but I think that they're also going to replace them with Primaris models, new Primaris models, right? Like they did with Stern
Yeah,
Guard.
that's a good possibility, especially for like the Devastator squad. Because while we
It's
do have the
iconic.
Desolators, I mean they only have one weapon loadout, so
Yeah.
I think that would be the only other unit that I can think of that hasn't had some Primaris crossover on something. Um, it was Terminators, and then now Terminators have
New
Primaris true
models.
scale.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that might be the only one because we got the Assault Terminators, and it just would be an elite uh, jump pack unit,
Yep.
a la Vanguard. That would be
Which I'm sure is
the next
coming.
one.
I cannot imagine that we're not going to get. I think that's why Van Vets are so bad.
They're rusty weapons.
Yeah, they're rusty heirloom weapons. Although now they're not called heirloom weapons anymore. I guess they were tired of us making fun of them. They're like, I think they're Vanguard veteran weapons or something stupid.
Yeah, someone got a hold of our streams.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I think we'll see just sort of the primarization, the upscale models for those existing firstborn units. Now, as far as the Crusader squads, I think that'll be interesting to see. I don't know. So if you look at Stern Guard, Stern Guard lost a bunch of options they had. They went from being able to take any heavy weapon as firstborn to you can take a heavy bolter or a big flamer, the pyre cannon or whatever, right? And then they still have the combi weapons and their bolt rifles. Now combi weapons change, but that's across the board. The captain, on the other hand, both the jump pack captain and the regular captain, I don't know if the regular captain, I'll have to double check his sheet, but the jump pack captain has an option for a thunder hammer and a storm shield that doesn't exist on the current model. So he has a firstborn option in there, probably for people who own models like that, smash captains from the days of yore. But that doesn't exist in the kit, which is sort of against GW's current thing of like you get what's in the kit. So it'll be interesting to see if they legends, which I think they will, the old firstborn Crusader squad, and whether they incorporate any of those options into the Primaris version. Now, my gut tells me no,
Yeah, I think they're just gonna legend it.
because we have a kit, and that kit does not have those options. However, once again, so does the same thing with the new jump pack captain. He has an option on his data sheet that does not exist in that kit. So I guess we'll see. My gut tells me no, that they're not going to. I really hope if they do incorporate any of those options that we still keep the Primaris kit loadout the way it is, because I really like the chain swords and the power fists and all that stuff that we get now. So
Yep. So we have time for one last question for you guys. And we'll kind of wrap up for the day. So first off, while we're kind of waiting, I want to thank you all for joining us. I know these caffeine and crusades are usually short notice on when we do them. But,
that's definitely my fault. And
well, it was late in the week. It's like, hey, are we gonna do a crusade, caffeine crusade this weekend?
Yeah.
Yep, sure, let's do it.
It's supposed to be the third Sunday of every month, and what I really need to do is like 2 weeks out, once we've decided on our topic, is put the thing up there so people know more about it. So yeah. We also know that it is fairly early in the morning, but we didn't want it to interfere too much with family time on the weekend. But it also, It's part of the reason why we have the name in there, Caffeine and Crusade, because we need some caffeine to
Yes.
wake up.
If we're being honest, the Caffeine Crusade is geared towards our European friends out
Yeah,
there.
so it's
So it's not for the American brethren out there. So you guys unfortunately get to see the replay.
yeah,
But yeah, it's we do this for you guys because we know that we're on a totally different time scale as you guys. We're not able to interact with you as much in the Discord and such. So this is basically for you.
yeah.
So
But yeah. So that's that's all the time we've got for this week. So next month is January, and we should, let's see, it should be one, two, three. It should be January 21st. Should be our next Caffeine and Crusade. Let us know. Let us know in the Discord, in the comments, wherever, what you think we should talk about as we get closer to that live stream. And until then, thanks everyone for joining. Make sure you click all the YouTube algorithm buttons. And Happy New Year, everyone! And
Happy
we
New
look
Year.
forward to a another great year for the Black Templars.
Yep.
We'll see you next
So
time, guys.